Should teenagers be allowed to lock their doors? Teen here. My house has this rule. If the door is closed, then the person outside knocks. If the person inside says no, the person outside says they can come back, or if it's important says it through the door. Functions as a lock, but in case of emergencies the door is unlocked. However, I do recognize that my parents are extremely respectful of my privacy. I never had a lock on my door. None of the bedrooms had locks. The bathroom had that privacy lock which you can disengage with a paperclip. Your parents need to learn how to knock. The lock isn't the issue. Also, locks and headphones don't mix. Make some sort of light-oriented signal for when you're chilling with headphones and you want privacy. Or else you're gonna get surprised and angry every time, and it will further strain the relationship. My parents had a rule growing up that we can always close the door but not lock it. If the door was closed, they would knock before coming in. Seemed like a reasonable compromise. They were worried about self-harm or emergencies. I wanted privacy. My parents didn't want to install a lock, because if something bad happened they couldn't check on me fast. But they always knocked before entering. Depends. Sometimes there is genuine reason for concern, sometimes it's just control. No one answer really. It's up to the parents. But I don't think it's asking too much if they are willing to knock and wait for you to tell them to come in. The respect can go both ways. Locks on bedroom doors are for privacy. There should be locks, but with the universal slot key so your parents could open it easily. Strictly for safety reasons. Your parents probably still think of you as a child, but you'll be moving out in just a few years. I personally feel privacy is crucial to growth to become a functional adult. That would have been anathema where I grew up. Latin am. In fact, no closed doors. It really wasn't your room. It was a room in the house allotted to you. I think teens should be allowed to close their door and parents should knock before entering. Unless it's some emergency or unusual situation. But other than that, I don't think it's unreasonable for a parent to not allow you to lock the door. Emo. Teenagers should be allowed to lock their doors but also shouldn't have to. Parents and siblings should respect their privacy and knock on a closed door. They should wait until said door is opened. Most interior locks are simple privacy locks that can be opened in emergencies from the outside with a thin probe. So it's symbolic anyway. This is an interesting discussion and many of the comments so far are very interesting to read. I'm a single father of 2. I have my kids about 90% of the time. I got 15-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. I have to preface this with the fact that I live in Iceland, and this notion of, you have to earn respect to be given respect, thing doesn't really exist here. Everyone deserves respect. Respect can be lost, of course. But always respect others first. Same with my kids. I have to show them respect just like I would do for any other human around me. I'm also going to preface this with, if the child is in any way suicidal, severely depressed or on medication with side effects that could be fatal if not checked on regularly, then the deal changes. But if we're just talking about your run-of-the-mill teenager who has a normal teenager attitude and mentality, then what I'm saying below goes. I've always knocked on my kids' doors and waited for an answer before coming into their rooms. I started doing that pretty early with both my kiddos. My kids don't feel the need to lock their doors at the moment, but they could if they wanted to. Their rooms are their spaces, and I respect that they need privacy and some sort of control over little things around them. Kids have very little control over their own lives, so giving them the opportunity to be themselves in their own space is good for their development. I also read from some comments that locked doors are a privilege, and you don't pay the mortgage. You don't make the rules. Are locked doors a special right to be given and taken away just because this child that you birth doesn't have its name on the mortgage in the house it lives in? Seriously? I want my kids to feel safe in the house they live in. So yes, barring any serious issues, they should be allowed to lock their doors. I think the issue isn't a lack of a lock, but a lack of respect on your parents' part. My son never had a lock on his door, but I also never barged into his room. I never felt like I needed to. He was his own person who was entitled to privacy. We all have things that are our own. I knew if I ever needed to go in for anything that I could. But I think I only went in once when he was around 10 and I had to take a console away as punishment. All that said, I'm sorry they don't respect your privacy. All you can do is try to talk to them and hope they listen. PFFT. I almost always knock on my 13-year-old's door. And I told him it's okay to lock it for some alone time. But that it shouldn't be locked all the time. When my son turned 14, I put a pin in his knob that allows it to lock. It was so he could have privacy. BC everyone's entitled to at least one private space. However, if he had ever engaged in shish, I would take the pin back. I also always knock on every closed door. I was just raised that way. I never had a lock on my door growing up, but my folks would always do a courtesy knock and wait for an answer before coming in. My parents would never allow it, but that's my family. Everyone's different. Doesn't really answer your question, which is ultimately based on opinion, but a cautionary tale to the overbearing parents commenting. My parents were narcissistic, mother and stepfather, and completely out of line. No locks. They tracked me through my phone. I still have nightmares about it to this day as I approach 30 years old. They had all of my MySpace, Instant Messenger, Facebook, etc. messages saved on the external hard drive. They had all of my text messages saved and phone calls recorded. They would know my location at all times. They would find my friends' phone numbers and call them demanding I be brought home or show up themselves. I was a good kid in high school. I didn't hang out with people who drank or did drugs. They would gossip about me from their laptops while I was sitting in the room. This was because they were mentally ill. They did not care about my well-being as I was neglected overall. It may be different had they disclosed they were simply tracking my location for safety, but they never did and would gaslight me when evidence was presented saying they don't do that and I'm crazy. Give your teenagers space. Trust them. Their actions and behavior are a direct result of your parenting skills or lack thereof. End of rant. Pardon me, but what is shish? Take up naked yoga. That way they will learn to knock before coming in. At 14. Yes. Probably. Unless there is a real reason not to. Like if the kid is binging and purging, cutting, suicidal, etc. Otherwise, the door lock is probably appropriate. Adolescents need privacy from their parents. In fact, all the research I have seen suggests it is a needed part of maturation.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.